Hi everyone, I'm Rich and welcome back to Mission 1820 and another episode of Have You Ever Wondered? Well, this is a weekly series where we answer a common biblical question in 5 minutes or less. So if you're new to the channel, we definitely encourage you to like the videos, subscribe to the channel, and certainly browse all of our other available content. So, without further ado, let's get to this week's question. Have you ever wondered what the tribulation period actually is? But first of all, the word tribulation comes from the Greek translation thlipsis, which means pressure, affliction, anguish, and persecution. Now, before we go any further, let me first make this distinction between the tribulation and the Great Tribulation Period. The tribulation itself is a 7-year period between the rapture of the church and the millennial kingdom, or what is known as the second coming of Jesus Christ. The tribulation covers the entire 7-year tribulation period, which is broken down into 2 3.5-year periods, where the Great Tribulation Period is the last 3.5 years of that 7-year tribulation. Now, during the future 7-year period of time, God will finish his discipline on Israel, and he's going to finalize his judgment of the unbelieving world. And ultimately, he's going to be sending Satan to his final demise into the lake of fire. The church, which is made up of all who trusted in the person and work of Jesus Christ, they will not be present during the tribulation period, as they already have been raptured to heaven prior to the tribulation, which can also be reread in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verses 13 through 18. Now, we know from the book of Daniel that the 7-year period of intense worldwide trouble will be centered on the Jews and Jerusalem. We also know from Daniel chapter 9, verse 27, that the 7-year period begins when an evil ruler known as the Antichrist forms a covenant and establishes a peace treaty between him and Israel, which will reestablish sacrifice in Israel. However, this will only last for 3.5 years, at which time the Antichrist breaks the covenant by committing what is known as the abomination of desolation. And we see this in Matthew chapter 24, 15, where Jesus says, "Therefore, when you see the abomination of desolation spoken by Daniel the prophet standing in the holy place." This is when the Antichrist is going to go into the temple of Jerusalem, and he's going to demand to be worshiped in God's temple as God himself. And this will begin the Great Tribulation Period, lasting the final 3.5 years. Now, the Great Tribulation Period is going to be the worst time of trouble the world will ever experience, as there will be 3.5 years of judgment and war poured out on earth. Matthew 24:21 tells us, "For then there will be a great tribulation. Such has not occurred since the beginning of the world until now, nor ever shall." The prophet Daniel says it this way, "And there will be a time of distress, such as never occurred since there was a nation until that time." So what is happening here now? Well, for starters, the peace agreement that was made between the Jews and the Antichrist during the tribulation, it's going to be broken, and the Antichrist will put an end to the sacrifices being offered in the temple. He's then going to turn upon the nation which actually embraced him from the beginning and he's going to begin ruling in power for 42 months. This time of misery is also called the time of Jacob's trouble, which is found in Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 7. Well, there's going to be 3 periods of judgment taking place at this time. You're going to see the seal judgments, the trumpet judgments, and the bowl judgments, all found in the book of Revelation. Now, probably the most well-known event that will take place during this time, well, that's revealed to us in Revelation chapter 13, verse 17, that says, so that no one can buy or sell unless he has the mark. That is the name of the beast or the number of its name. So for those millions of people who have been left behind to go through that tribulation period for 7 years, well, they're going to have to make a choice. They're either going to accept the mark of the beast in order to function in society, or they're going to accept Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior and become a tribulation saint. Life during this time for the new believers is going to be extremely difficult, and they're going to have a very hard time surviving until Jesus comes back. However, those who take the easy way out and accept the mark of the beast, well, they're just aligning themselves with Satan, and they're ultimately going to be condemned to hell after the tribulation period is over. But for those who accept Christ during this period, they're going to be guaranteed eternity in paradise when Jesus comes back during his second coming. Now you know what the tribulation period actually is. Thanks for watching, and God bless.